Thanks for clicking on Wayne.com for this week's edition of Inside the Zone, alongside a healthier version of Blake Sebring.
Better.
A healthier version of Glenn Marini.
And we got a healthier version of the Komets, too.
This is true. 2 wins this past weekend. They sweep the weekend, and health-wise, Pat Nagle back after missing 37 games. Let's start off there. Pat Nagle returns Friday. Rapid City, an old rival. He comes up with 34-37 saves. What did you think of his performance, given that, gosh, here's a guy who's missed 3 months of hockey?
I really liked it because he didn't overextend in a way. I mean, he played his angles really well. He was just very functional, very technical. He didn't have to make spectacular saves because he was already in position. I mean, he just played well.
When you take a look at where the Komets are at in terms of goaltenders now, you have to think they're sitting pretty plush because you have the play of Garrett Bardas and also Pat Nagle. But how do you juggle handling 2 goalies that Bardas has proven?
Well, you got 3.
Well, 3, yes. But how do you handle the fact that Nagle's the guy, but Bardas has played so well, you want to keep him on the ice to keep him hot?
And Nagle needs games, too.
Right.
Yeah, it's a tough one. They have a couple weeks coming up where they've got 4 games in 5 days. You can do that. Maybe you give Nagle 2 of the games, and maybe you give the other guys 1 each or something like that. Mm-hmm. The other thing is maybe you look at what's out there trade-wise. Although I'm guessing, what they need, they would probably like to have another puck-moving defenseman. Well, everybody in the league would like to have another puck-moving defenseman. So you might have to wait and see what's out there that way, just to see. Because maybe there'd be some interest in Musico then, possibly, or Bardas. Maybe you could really get something in return.
That's one of the things I think that is difficult to also predict, though, is how long are you going to need 3 goalies? Because you kind of want to have that insurance. The high ankle sprain is a really tricky injury, especially for a goalie. You want to make sure he's 100% healthy. I'm assuming that he is, but how long can you keep 3 goalies conceivably if you're the Komets, just to make sure that Pat is 100% go?
Well, you could do it for quite a while because you're under the cap right now. You got Cheek, Sidlowski, and Shea off the cap, so you've got sufficient cap room to do lots of things if you'd like. So you're not hurting anybody by keeping Musico or Bardas or whatever. You're keeping 3 goalies, period. Okay, and truthfully, think about it. What if somebody gets hurt? The hardest thing to find is another goalie. The second hardest to find is a puck-moving defenseman, and the third thing is the power forward. Somebody up front who can be big and crash the net and handle themselves and all that. Well, right now, you've got the hardest thing to find, so why not keep it until somebody blows your doors off with a trade offer?
How do you keep a guy like PJ specifically fresh? Because Bardas, in the pecking order, was, until Nagle came back, was the number 1 guy, and PJ was playing well as the number 2 guy. Now he gets bumped down a notch. How do you keep him fresh and keep him mentally engaged in everything that's going on?
I would think that PJ's pretty good about that. He's kind of bounced around a little bit, and once you do that a couple times, you learn your own rhythms and how to do it. Maybe you do some extra stuff after practice or before practice, or you just keep your own mindset. By this point in the season, it's mostly mindset.
Let's move on to some of the other players that we want to talk about. Mike Mbak. Pretty good weekend for Mike.
Yeah, that goal he scored for the game winner Saturday night was pretty.
Yeah, 3 points for Mike. He's really starting to come on. What have you seen from Mike? Where is he at, and what can he do going forward for this Komets team? Because we obviously have seen in years past what Mike can bring when he gets hot.
I think he and Mike Cazzola have really started to figure it out, along with Kyle Thomas. I think they've started to figure out how they operate together and how they can make it work. And Mike's still, he's still shoving his nose in the middle of everything. I mean, he has never been shy about hitting along the boards or hitting in front and going to the front of the net. And I think that's really it. With Mike, it's a lot of mindset too. I mean, if he's going good, and he is, he can go for a while. And I think he's feeling positive and he's feeling pretty good, and that's a big part of it.
And you just recently wrote an article about how size isn't everything. Everybody wants to get big guys, especially big forwards. But Mike's obviously a smaller guy, and some of the smaller guys have really played well for the Komets. Talk about kind of the crux of that article and what it all means.
It's about the individual person rather than small players as a group. Like Gary Graham said, the smaller guys have to have a higher motor. They got to have a higher compete level. And Jason Binkley and Mike Cazzola and Mike Mbak, all 3 of those guys are very, very competitive, and they're not shy about going into the net. I mean, how many of Cazzola's goals have come within 5 feet of the net? I mean, most of them. And Binkley is the guy that you're always going to target if you're dumping the puck into the zone. You're always going to try to go to his side, thinking you can just bang him into the glass. But he's quick and he's smart and he knows what he wants to do with the puck before he ever touches it.
As far as Cazzola goes, a huge weekend really for him as well. He scores kind of in bunches. I mean, you'll see him put up his fourth 5-point game this weekend. So what is it about Mike that allows him to, when he gets hot, I mean, to just be blistering?
I think it's the way he approaches it, because, you know, you look at Mike and you think, okay, he's just going to stay out near the blue line. You know, I mean, because he's not big. He's the smallest guy on the team at 5'8", but he's so stinking smart, and it's like he has an idea what he wants to do with the puck every time he gets it. And I think Leo and Mike Mbak are starting to figure out how to feed off of him and to take advantage of that.
Kyle Thomas, you mentioned him already. He's really, every time we've seen him, he seems to get a little bit better each season. So what has he done this year to take the next step? And, I mean, he's 6th currently right now in the ECHL in points. What has he done to advance his game to the point that we've seen it now? And what can he do going forward for this Komets team?
Kyle, like any of these guys, we keep forgetting that this is the youngest era of Komets hockey. I mean, these guys are all 24 to 26 mostly, but they're only a couple of years out of college, most of them. And with Kyle, it's confidence. With all of them, it's confidence. Look at Cody Soul this year. It's all confidence and knowing you're going to be successful. And for Kyle, it's been the breakaways. I mean, he's been getting a bunch of them. There was a stretch there where about a week and a half he couldn't hit anything on that road trip. And now he got a couple again, and he's really confident, and he's just taking off and taking advantage, and he's looking for his shot. And if you've got Cazzola setting you up, you're in good shape.
How much of a, I don't want to say surprise has Kyle been, because I think Gary kind of saw this coming.
Yeah, he did. I think he did too. I think Gary saw it 2 years ago. I mean, I think Kyle is like Exhibit A for Gary. You know, I mean, if anybody doubts if he can help a kid get better, or if he can make a kid, if the kid will listen. And look at Binkley, what he's done this year. It's amazing. I mean, Jason's really played well this year. And a lot of that is Gary having confidence in him and putting him in those situations and letting him succeed. And it's the same thing with Kyle. You know, every time before the guys go home over the summer, they'll sit down with Gary and he'll say, here's what I'd like you to work on over the summer. Well, this year was Kyle's hands, and it really paid off.
When you take a look at Gabriel De Chardin, 24 years old, left wing, what has he been able to do? What's your impression of him and what he brings to the table for this Komets team? Because he had a nice weekend as well.
He's such a hard worker. I mean, you look at him and you think, okay, there's a defensive forward mostly, kind of a Huckalo type that way. I mean, he's such a hard worker, but he's starting to get more opportunities offensively because he works so hard, and he's such a good forechecker that he's starting to come down the wing and just fire, and he's starting to get more opportunities that way.
When you look at the standings right now, you look at the Central Division, obviously it was a good weekend for the Komets. They gained 4 points on Toledo.
Toledo with 2 out of 2 and 3.
Yeah, Toledo 66 points right now in first place in the Central Division. The Komets played one less game, but had 56 points. Is Toledo catchable?
I don't think so. And partly because you just don't have any games with them. I think there's 2 games left. That's it. So you've got to win both of those games, and then you still need 3 other games to make up. And I just don't think that there's that many teams out there that are going to beat Toledo. You know what I'm saying? I don't see it as a negative for the Komets, but I see it as just, you know, that's the way the schedule's working. Now, Kalamazoo's been hot, and they've been playing well against Toledo. So has Wheeling, but Cincinnati hasn't, Indy hasn't, Quad City hasn't. I think a worthy goal, and we've said this before, I think the worthy goal for the Komets is finish second in the conference. Now, that depends on who Allen plays a lot, you know, but you can catch them. I mean, I think that'll give you a decent goal to shoot for. It'll help you buckle down and work on some of these things, and you can do that. And that could be very important if you can somehow get past Toledo in the second round. You could have home ice for the conference finals again.
Let's talk about this week. Friday at home against Indy, Saturday at Cincinnati, Sunday at Kalamazoo. What are some of the things you're looking forward to about this week, and what are some of the things that you hope you see specifically on Friday when the Komets come out at home?
Sure. I want to see how they react to Saturday's game against Indy. They know they can score against Indy, but I want to see how can you do defensively against Indy. Now, Tyler Barnes got called up. We'll see if he's back or not. I want to see how that works. And I want to see Saturday, I want to see Mike Mbak in Cincinnati. He has not had a typical Mike Mbak Cincinnati game this year, and I think he's really due. Plus, that's the first game against Cincinnati that Cody Soul's back after the brouhaha of they were going after some of the Komets non-fighters, he thought, and some of that. That'll be kind of fun. And Sunday is the most dangerous game of the week to me just because Kalamazoo's goaltending has been so good. Martin and Rayapol have just been amazing. They've carried that team just like always. And you never put anything past Joel Martin. I mean, he can carry a team for a month,
sure,
all by himself. And Kalamazoo's been really hot and playing really well. That's a tough game.
Final question: what else do you have to add this week? What else is like on your list of things that maybe the average fan isn't thinking about heading into this week?
I want to see the penalty kill really get on a tear. I think that would make things so much easier for the team. They've kind of been up and down. They just got done with, I think it was a 15 or 16 game streak, and they gave up one on Saturday night. But I think they can do better, and I think they're going to start to buckle down on some of that. That's a really big thing. They killed off another 5-on-3 Friday night, which was both were legitimate calls against the Komets, but they did really well. They're starting to really get a little bit more confident, be a little bit more active on the penalty kill. I want to see some more of that.
All right, should be an interesting week. 3 games this weekend for the Komets, starting with a home game on Friday night. That'll do it for Blake. I'm Glenn. We'll see you next week.